Welcome to Let's Talk Jets Radio.
What's up, everybody? Tyson Roush. Let's talk Jets with my new best friend, Adam. What's up, man?
How are you?
Doing great, man. First of all, where do you live, man? Where are you from?
I grew up in Manhattan. I'm a city boy. I was in Manhattan most of my life, and I live now in Cowtown, Pennsylvania, on the PA New York border, west of Binghamton. So I'm surrounded by Steelers fans and Bills fans. That's about it.
That's brutal, man. So now, what made you a Jets fan?
I was born the tail end of '65.
Okay.
And I came of age, I guess, to understand professional football a year or two after the Super Bowl. And at that point, Joe Namath owned New York City.
Right.
So him and Clyde Frazier, they were superheroes. So it was pretty natural for a little kid understanding and learning about football to, idolize the number one guy in the city. I remember, as I was probably 5 years old, going down to Jerry Cosby's Sporting Goods when it was on 33rd Street, I think, and 9th or 10th Avenue. It's a car dealership now, before it moved into the Garden lobby.
Yep.
And I remember walking in and seeing this display tree of helmets. Took the Jets helmet. I've had a Namath jersey on me for 50 years. I saw Namath play at Shea in '73. They lost to the Falcons. I was at the Yale Bowl when I'm pretty sure I was at a Jets-Giants game at the Yale Bowl, and I'm almost positive, I can't tell you the year, it's got to be around 73, 74, where Namath limped into the end zone. The line opened up and he couldn't even walk. But, it was a different time then, growing up in New York City, whatever borough we were in, I was in Manhattan, but as kids, you could hop a bus or a train to Shea and it was cheap. You could go see a ton of games. You go up to Yankee Stadium. I loved the Yankees growing up. You could go out to Coney Island, go to Jones Beach. I grew up, I spent a ton of time at the Garden watching boxing. But all this stuff was inexpensive and it was accessible for us kids. You didn't have to worry about getting thrown on the train tracks or knifed. You might get mugged, but you could literally you take a bus or a train out to Shea, and as a kid for $10 you could get in to a cheap seat. You could get a dirty water dog and a pretzel, and have a great time. And it was sports at that point in the early '70s, mid '70s was really working class.
Right.
And we were all, we were working class kids. And so I grew up in Manhattan. When I was playing Pop Warner, as a matter of fact, this is how old I am. We used to play out on Randall's Island where the WFL stadium was.
Wow.
Before it became a concert venue. That's when it was after the WFL had folded.
Right.
So that had to be, I guess, about 75-ish. And then, I love the Jets. I love the Yankees. We got to the 80s, love the sack exchange, but Namath has always been my guy.
With Namath, because you're a great person to ask. Like a lot of us, we know of him. We know the Super Bowl. We know that. We know that the fur coats and the celebrity stash like that. But we really don't know him much as a player. Was he obviously a Hall of Famer? But was he that great as opposed to quarterbacks in the Jets' history of past? Over the years?
Yeah, I would say yes, and I'll tell you why. Because Namath brought the AFL. I hate the word swagger because I'm old enough to remember what swag meant: stolen goods off the back of a truck, not attitude.
Right.
But Namath brought that high-flying mad bomber personality from the AFL, and Namath was just so fucking cool. He was the coolest cat. He was badass. He was just so cool. So he was an aw shucks guy. He was from Western Pennsylvania, but he was just a total celebrity. And
how was his arm talent? Like, how was his play on the field? Was he like strong armed? Was he?
Yeah, you know something? When Namath, the knock on Namath was his knees were terrible.
Right.
He was half crippled most of his career, basically. But he had a great arm. I mean, you think of it this way: Namath still holds the yardage record for the team after all these years. He's the only guy who ever threw for 4,000 yards as a Jet, and that's back when they were playing like 14 games.
So who do you think had a better arm? Would you? To me, like I'm like an older Jet fan myself, so it's like I think in terms of arm strength. I mean, Favre, I thought even at the advanced stage, Favre had a cannon, but Testaverde had such a big arm too. Man, would Namath compare like with better arms than them in terms of just power and strength?
I think I would say a modern day quarterback is probably better. Or I wouldn't say better. I would say probably more effective simply because of, whether it's nutrition or training or genetics or whatever. Back in the 60s, Namath came in and he could throw the ball. You watch old footage of him, throwing downfield to Don Maynard.
Right.
Nothing better than that. The two guys I think were two of the strongest quarterbacks back in those days. And I was a kid, young kid, but learning as I watched. I think Darryl LaMonica, the Mad Bomber, had the strongest arm in the league. That guy that's why they called him the Mad Bomber. It's just like boom. And it was, the AFL came in. It was not running. It was high flying. It was all passing. And the thing about Namath was he may not have been able to throw a ball as far as a guy like Terry Bradshaw.
Right.
But he was laser accurate. And he had such command of the field as a quarterback. And that's what made him special. And he was a cocky guy. Johnny Unitas was great, but Johnny Unitas wasn't a cocky guy. Johnny Unitas was a machine. Namath came in and you know what? He backed it up. That's what made him so special. And, in the early 70s, there were three people who owned New York City. I said two earlier, there were three. It was Namath, it was Clyde Frazier, and it was the actor who played Superfly, Ron O'Neal.
Okay.
Superfly, I think was Shaft came out in 70, 71. Superfly came out after that. When Superfly came out, Ron O'Neal played this drug hustler, pimp guy with the flashy clothes. He looked just like Clyde Frazier with the clothes, fur coat and stuff. Those three personalities were larger than life back then.
So you have the celebrity of Namath, the Jets. They win the Super Bowl. They're the Kings of New York and like that. And then they really didn't follow up after that. I mean, they didn't have a lot of success after that, did they? Because they tailed off, and then it was like they didn't really come back until like the Joe Walton days, right?
Yeah, absolutely. What happened was the Jets started tailing off. Namath got traded to the Rams,
right?
Which was like Tom Seaver getting traded to the Reds. That was, nowadays guys shuffle.
Right.
Back then, that was unbelievable. And we were in mourning. It was like we lost our guy, Joe Namath. And you had to wait till about 77, 78 for another athlete to take over New York, and that was Reggie Jackson. But by that time, Namath was gone.
Right.
And he was a former shell of himself. But I'll tell you how big Namath was as an iconic figure. He was on the Brady Bunch.
Right.
And not that the Brady Bunch was,
yeah.
But if you think about the premise of the Brady Bunch, it was a suburban family in Los Angeles County.
Mm-hmm.
The kid, who was 10 years old, he didn't idolize LaMonica or John Hadle or Roman Gabriel, who were California quarterbacks.
Right.
He idolized Joe Namath from across the country. That's how big. And then, Namath went into acting, made some shitty movies, and but that's how iconic figure Namath was. And I think his legend probably transcended his abilities.
Right. That's what I always wondered. Yeah.
But something, Tyson, I would not hesitate to take Namath on a team. A healthy Namath, I would stack him up against anybody. He was a smart player, a gutsy player. And those dudes back then, man, they took a pounding. Namath was half crippled because guys were going for his knees intentionally.
So when you go to the 80s, I mean, the next player that everybody likes to talk about is Richard Todd. which is an interesting guy because I remember like the whole Mud Bowl story like that. But if you look at Richard Todd's career, how would you categorize that?
I compare Richard Todd to Larry Holmes.
Okay.
Because Larry Holmes never got the credit he deserved because he came in the shadow of Muhammad Ali.
Right.
Larry Holmes was a fine heavyweight champion.
Yep.
He never got that respect, though. Richard Todd was a good quarterback, but he was not Joe Namath.
Yeah.
And he could never be Joe Namath. And he was a good ball player. I can't say he was great, but
right.
he was certainly good. And the other thing you have to remember, in the 70s, you basically had 5 teams that ran the league.
Right.
It was the Steelers in the latter part of the 70s, the Cowboys. The Dolphins, the Vikings, and the Raiders later on. And everybody else was, flotsam. Everybody had, the Chiefs were decent, but you didn't have the equal footing that you do now, where you can say, half the league can get to the playoffs, and you never know what will happen. It was 4 or 5 teams in the 70s. When you got to the 80s, the Jets made a really nice run. I think Richard Todd was pretty good. I think Kenny O'Brien was good. But, the knock on Kenny O'Brien was that he was taken before Dan Marino.
Yeah.
So, but, anybody who ever says, well, he wasn't Dan Marino, say, okay, yeah, but Trent Dilfer has more Super Bowl trophies than Dan Marino does.
And I thought Kenny O'Brien was pretty good. He did hold on to the ball too long, but he had some like extraordinary games with Wesley Walker and Altoon, and he had some comeback victories. It's just like he was like the victim of bad breaks too. Like it's like, right. I mean, like he had bad luck too with the things that happened around him. It wasn't like his fault that some of the biggest moments weren't his fault when the Jets lost.
Absolutely. The thing that's really startling for a lot of I guess fans that are like half my age, I'm 56, is that over 60 plus years, this team has never had an extended period of success.
Nope.
The sack exchange, handful of years, 4 or 5 years, that was it. We've always had a couple here and there. And something I was thinking about the other day, do you realize that Tom Brady had more winning seasons as a Patriot than Jets have as an organization?
Yeah, you look at it, it's like there's always like a couple runs. Like Rex Ryan had like 2 good years, then they went downhill. Like you had like 2 good years. Like Herm had his little run. It's like it just out, and it's just. But going back to just Kenny O'Brien and those guys. Well, actually, in the sack exchange, the one thing that I researched the team like crazy, dude. I used to talk to. I remember watching moments of Klecko and those guys playing, but I don't remember it vividly. So I'd go back. I went back on YouTube and watched a lot of the games. But to me, the fact that Joe Klecko is not in the Hall of Fame is a fucking crime.
It's an absolute disgrace.
And I think it's because he's a Jet. I think if Joe Klecko was on the Steelers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, the 49ers, he's already in there. But it's because he's a member of the Jets, and whoever, like, they don't have that same NFL reputation. Like it's like, and it's just ridiculous, dude. And when you have like Peter King vouch for him, Anthony Munoz vouch for him, Dwight Stevenson vouch for him, like the biggest names in the NFL are saying this guy belongs in there, and he's still not getting in. To me, it's like there is some politics there, and it's because of the Jet, and they get bypassed with a lot of stuff.
I totally agree with you. You're absolutely right. There has been in my lifetime, probably post sack exchange, because the team has been really not great for so long. The Jets are the Rodney Dangerfield of the NFL.
Yep.
They're an easy punching bag. They're an easy joke. Everybody's the butt fumble and this and that. You know what? I remember Pizarchek dropping the ball, trying to hand it off to Larry Zonka. That was a much more devastating occurrence than the butt fumble.
Yep.
Okay.
They won Super Bowls. That's the problem.
Giants fans were ready to throw themselves out windows at that point. That was the ultimate humiliation. But if Klecko played for the Cowboys, the Raiders, or the Steelers, he's a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Bingo.
Guy was an all-pro at 3 different positions on the line. Yep. And then when you think about the numbers that him and Gastineau put up, see, the other thing too is Gastineau is a pariah.
Right.
Gastineau was a great player, but people didn't like him because he was flamboyant.
He did the dance and he was arrogant.
He did the dance. Klecko was part of Gastineau's line.
Right.
Okay? When you talk about Klecko, does anybody ever say, "Oh, Abdul Salam"? No, they say Gastineau.
Yep.
if you look at the numbers they put up, I think the one year that both had 20 sacks each.
Yep.
I mean, you think about that in today's. I mean, we're sitting here hoping a guy gets 6 sacks. You and 2 guys on the same line get 20
we wouldn't know
sacks.
a guy gets 6 packs. We call him a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, he's a Pro Bowl. But it's really a shame because the other thing I'll tell you about Klecko, he got caught up in some insurance scam years ago.
Yep.
Klecko, we used to call a guy like that a ham and egger.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lunch pail guy. He's a good man. He's a solid guy.
Yep.
He's no ego. He came. He did his best. He wasn't super talented as an athlete, but he was the perfect defensive lineman because he was like a gorilla.
He was tough as shit, played through injuries.
Yep. He was, Klecko reminded me of on the other side of the ball. He reminded me of a guy like Mike Webster, who was the center, the Iron Man center for the Steelers.
Yep.
That was Klecko. He was no flash. He'd be bleeding, but that guy could play. That Jets defensive line, Tyson, in my opinion, listen, I'm a Jets fan, but as good as the Steel Curtain, in my opinion. But
so that
not high profile because it's the Jets.
And that's something, and you make a really good point. And that's something that, like people always ask me because they're like, oh, the Jets this, Jets that. I'm like, the Jets are always the punching bag because they never in that big moment find the way to win the game. There's always that caveat. There's always the asterisk. There's always that something where it's like, like whatever it is, look all throughout history. It's like the Denver Bronco championship game. They had 6 turnovers where guys, they had Bill Parcells. I mean, Bill Parcells couldn't win with them because they completely melted in Denver. Then he leaves them. And then he had the injuries at Testaverde. Then there's always that, you could sit in a sports bar and talk with Jet fans for hours about all the times that things went wrong. And if you want to have a positive conversation, it lasts about 20 minutes. Like, oh, we had this, we had this, we had this. You know what I mean? It's like, because there's just so many things. It's like the football god just pound on this team. It's just wild, dude. That's
why so many older fans really ascribe to the theory that the Jets are cursed. And Namath made the guarantee. They got the Super Bowl and that was it, one and done. And he put the whammy on us forever.
Well, I think
but you're exactly right. There was always a speed bump.
Yep.
If the Jets had gotten over the hump, the sack exchange, and won one championship, you'd have Hall of Fame guys being plucked off that team. But it's always a bridesmaid, never a bride. That's what the Jets history has been. And then, I was never a Testaverde fan. Testaverde, to me, had a padded resume. He was a journeyman for 20 years. He caught fire for 2 seasons. Okay. Mm-hmm. Inopportune time, he blows his Achilles out or whatever. I remember watching that game, and I'm just like, oh, my God, you got to be kidding me.
Yep.
Fitzpatrick turned into a pumpkin, another journeyman.
Yep.
The worst game of the year to turn into a pumpkin. It's like, what happened? What? And it's just, I remember A.J. Dewey.
Yep.
The mud ball, the fake spike game.
Yep.
And we have collectively labored under the weight of, misfortune, bad luck. Somebody threw the whammy on us. I don't know.
Incompetence. Yep.
But that's just always something that gets in the gears and fucks it up.
And that's why it's funny with the younger fans because sometimes, especially when the things get a little bit rocky, they're like, man, you are so fucking negative. I'm like, I'm not negative. What I have is years and years of knowledge of bad football, bad decisions, and bad luck. And you know it when you see it. Like example, last year, the home opener against the Patriots. Within the first quarter, I'm like, I know what this game is. I know this game is going to be an absolute ass kicking. I know I've been there before. You know it. When they hired Gase, I knew it was going to be a disaster. And you see things going on. You see things coaches are doing. You see things players are doing. You see bad contracts. So it's just we have this knowledge base of just all of this shit that when we see it, we can identify it. You know what I mean? You could just say it. I know this is going to work. And
you know what?
It's just decades of it.
I mean, I've been an avid viewer of yours for a few seasons now, but I remember, I don't remember you said it or I said it. Somebody said it in the chat. We're watching the game. It's like Yogi Berra, deja vu all over again. We've taken this gut punch too many times. Now it's just a matter of, all right, are they going to put 40 on us or 50?
Yep. Those moments. And that's why
instantly it's sideways and it's not getting any better.
And then that's why it's when, members of the media, things like that always attack. They try to give us a narrative or say something, like, bro, don't sell it to us. We know what we see. Like Jet fans, I'm telling you, like, we get a bad rap for a lot of things. We're loud, we're obnoxious, we do this, we do that. We are the most passionate, loyal fan base. We haven't won shit.
Yep.
Seriously, we're talking like this year, like we've been doing like the training camp previews for the last like 2 or 3 weeks. Dude, we're all happy with 7 wins.
Yeah.
7. Going 7-10. We're like, yeah, man, that's where we're going right now. Like, dude, that's how low we've gotten to the point where like that. Yeah. And it's wild, man. It's unfortunate because the fan base deserves better. Like, I'm glad that, like CJ Mosley said it today. Saleh's been saying it. Joe Douglas said it. I know Jeff Ulbrich said it. He's like, listen, this fan base deserves better. And they do, because we've been through so much. And a lot of it's embarrassing. You said it perfectly. It's like there's always something like the Fitzpatrick choke job. Like, there's always that little whammy. Like, when things are going too well, you expect that doozy. Like, all right, things are going too well. Like, everybody's healthy. They're all like, you just wait for it. Like, Geno Smith got his freaking jaw broken. Like, it's just like Sam Darnold gets mono. Like, you can't even make this shit up, dude.
Well, if you think about this, Tyson, our team has not had a lot of success in 60 years. Okay, you go to a game, you will see dozens of jerseys from every decade.
Yep.
Okay, you go to Foxborough, you'll never see a Jim Plunkett jersey, or a Steve Grogan jersey, or a Sam Bam Cunningham jersey. You'll see Tom Brady and Gronkowski jerseys everywhere. And the Patriots have had success beyond Brady, but most of a team like the Patriots, their success is recent history, and it's all bandwagon fans up there compared to what we have. We have guys. I mean, like Kevin's dad, who was on the other night. I mean, he goes way back. You have fans who are rooting for the Titans. You have a loyal bunch, and we are polarized. We are. We're New Yorkers. We're jaded New Yorkers. That's it. But I don't think there's a more informed or smarter fan base than ours. I don't think there's a more loyal fan base than ours.
I agree.
You might want to say a team like the Lions, who have a rich history back in the 50s and the 40s. But this is the team has not made it easy for us to root for all these years. And I think that, segueing ahead, I think this is the first time that I remember that this franchise has the potential for long-term sustained success from the top down. The owners got out of the way.
Yep.
They realized that they're not the cool kids. They're the squares. Okay.
Yep.
You've got Joe Douglas. It will at some point be voted the VIP executive in the league. I think he's brilliant. Okay. Yep. So, you know what? I don't know about Saleh yet. Okay. I like him. He's an easy guy to root for. Really nice guy, passionate guy. I think he is perfect for this job.
Yep.
But you know what? Think back the first half of the season. We're sitting there in the live stream screaming, going, "What the fuck are you doing?" I mean, coming out with the comment, "Well, it's not my job to motivate the players." Yeah. Well, yes, it is. Well, I'm not going to get involved in the offense. I'm not going to get involved in the defense. Well, it was cool to see the Bills' defense on the field. What? And
he drove me crazy last year.
The clock management. He had the clock management coach with him, and the clock still screwed up. It's just. We give him a mulligan. I want him to succeed. He's a good man. He loves football. He's a student of the game, as opposed to a guy like Gase, who was very easy to despise because he was just a shitty coach, and he was a repugnant human being for the most part. I mean, as far as
I think Saleh has the perfect demeanor and personality to handle the Jets job, because the Jets coaching job is more than coaching the team. Mm-hmm. You have to endure a ridiculous media. Yep. You got to endure a very passionate, vocal fan base. Yeah. And you had to inherit a team that was lost, dazed, and confused. Yeah. So he inherited a legitimate pile of shit. And it's like, all right, man, you got to mold this and try to find the way. So we all gave him a pass last year, and there was a lot of times last year I was really disappointed because I said, like we talked about previously, I've seen a lot of first-time head coaches. I've seen a lot of mistakes they made, and I see where they are now. A lot of them aren't coaching. You know what I mean? So they're not doing very well. So, but he made a lot of mistakes. But to his credit, I think his conversation with Rex Ryan helped him, to be honest with you, because he brought back his personality. He brought back his fire. He started holding guys accountable, and things started to progress, and his game management was a little bit better. But the thing that he got away with was the Jets were written off. By October, nobody cared. Yeah. November, nobody cared. We're talking draft. Coming into this year now, it's like, listen, man, You have a young, exciting team. The fan base is very inspired. We're all excited. There's a radar on this team now. Like a lot of people are saying the Jets could surprise some people. They can get 8-9 wins, maybe sneak into a playoff. Like we expect a lot more. Where he's not going to get away with saying, you know what, when the defense gives up 180 yards, yeah, it's not the scheme, but it's not the players. Okay, then who is it? Like, you know what I mean? Like he's going to have a lot more pressure to have a much better defense on the field. And if the defense isn't playing well, to get more involved and say, you know what, I'm going to call plays now because I can't lose football games. Like you don't have these passes anymore. And I think the one thing that his strength is the players like him and they can relate with him. Like they respect him. They can relate to him. He's a very good communicator. So there's a lot of positives, but man, like they've got to win games, man. You can't blow it on just, poor management or poor decisions. Like even that Tampa Bay game where they had the confusion with the ball should be handed off to Braxton Berrios and how they handled that. Like some of the ways he communicated in the press conferences, I'm hoping he learned those lessons too last year and he changes it this year because that's part of the job, man. You got to be, it's a big part of the job.
My concern with Saleh is that he tries too hard to be a player's coach because that doesn't work. Okay, I'll give you an example. I'm a middle school English teacher. Okay, and I've been a teacher for 14 years now. And I'm one of the teachers in my building that is most known for my ability to make connections with my kids. Okay, and I wear a lot of different hats. I'm a teacher, I'm an educator, I'm a confidant, I'm a de facto parent, whatever. And a lot of times, a 13 or 14-year-old kid will say, "Oh, you're my best friend." No, I'm not. I'm your teacher. Well, I'm friendly with you, but I'm not your friend. I'm not hanging out at the mall with you. I'm not doing TikTok videos with you. I'm not following you on social media. And if you fuck up in class, I'm going to write you up.
Right.
Okay? And you're not going to like it. I'm going to be mean old dad. Saleh, as a head coach, cannot be the player's friend. He's got to kick some ass sometimes. A position coach can. When Saleh was a defensive coordinator, yeah, sure, I take everybody out for beer and pizza because we won. That's great. Yeah. Head coach can't do that. That's what I think happened with Rex. He became Rex had a lot of other things. He started believing his own bullshit, but he was too cozy, and people started taking advantage. The last guy I think who learned that lesson was Pete Carroll. Yep. He was a young guy. He was a player's coach and got taken advantage of.
I think Todd Bowles too, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because he was very low key.
He had a lot of faith in his veterans.
Really coordinator.
Yeah, he thought the veterans would take care of the locker room, patrol it, and kind of impose his message. Yep. And at some point they're like, you know what, we can give two shits, man. We're just gonna do what we want, and we're gonna be late. And I think that's one thing with Saleh I'm curious about because it was like last year, like Greg Van Roten was a liability, dude. And like absolutely. I'm telling you, I could be 14 beers in, hammered off my ass, and I know he sucks. Like if I can see the shit week in and week out, I'm like, and you keep putting him out there. It's hard to say you're holding guys accountable. It's hard to say this all gas, no break when you're trotting guys back out there. And then the other thing too, and like I'm kind of like old school, like a Parcells guy. Like if you commit a flagrant, like a personal foul, you're coming out of the game, dude. Like absolutely. A 15-yard penalty, you're out. Like Nathan Shepard would get back-to-back ones, or like wait, why is he still in here? Like, or you get a third down, like a huge penalty, you're taken out. Like get these guys accountable. Like we have a high standard here. Like they would do things like. And I don't think he did that. Towards the end, he did a little bit. But I'm hoping that he does more of that this year. And the reason why is because they're so young and impressionable. Like this Jets team has so much young, exciting talent that's being molded today. Like literally today, dude. The things they're learning today could be the future of this team. Is it going to be good habits or bad habits? What's going to be their regimen? What's going to be their mindset? What's going to be their physicality? That's all being molded today. And I'm hoping Saleh has a good feel and a pulse of that. Where they don't learn bad things. They don't like, you know what I mean? Like they learn how to cut, it's like you can, I have faith that Uzuma and Whitehead and Mosley and Lake and Tomlinson are really good leaders that will keep these guys together and kind of keep them on the right path. Yeah. But Saleh's got to have a firm hand, man, because these guys are so, it's just, there's an abundance of young talent.
And that is the potential problem when there's an old saying, familiarity breeds contempt.
Right.
If the players look at him as their buddy, they're not going to respect him as they should. Now, that doesn't mean in my opinion, I don't think the dictator, the Parcells, Vince Lombardi thing flies with this generation of players.
Probably
They're
not.
wired very differently with egos and whatever.
Right.
But you have to have a guy who's not afraid to hurt somebody's feelings.
Exactly.
Okay. And say, listen, you know what, Greg Van Roten, you're a great guy. I love you as my neighbor, but you're a human fucking turnstile and you're going to get our quarterback killed.
Yep.
You suck. Sit down. Okay.
Yep.
I'm taking you out until you learn how to block a fucking guy.
Yep.
Then you're not playing. That's it. I'm benching you. That's it. I think Saleh, the other thing I would like to see Saleh do, I want to see him coach a complete game more than once.
Yeah.
I don't want to see any more coaching errors. This is, these guys this is not you and I drawing up plays in the dirt in the park.
Right.
These guys are experienced people. They're professionals. They have to be held to a professional standard. And they're getting millions of dollars to know what they're doing. The beginning of last season, how many times were we just like, what the fuck is going on? Even LaFleur, I mean, like he was marketed as this savant. He was horrible some days.
Yep.
Then how many times were like yelling at the screen in unison when we had a great week of practice. What?
Then he went to the booth. Yeah.
About?
Yep.
And so I think that these guys have to show they're up for the big job. They have to be, we used to call it presidential timber.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I like I said, I'm rooting for Saleh. I hope that he becomes the coach of this franchise long into the future. He's a good man. He's a good football guy. But at this point, is he a glorified, position coach? We don't know yet. We'll see. I will tell you this. He'll get a third year. He'll get a year after this. But by June, we'll know if he's our future or not.
Yeah, no, I think so. This is definitely a year that you want. At the end of this year, you want to know a lot more about Saleh and a lot more about Zach Wilson. Like I have a lot of. I actually like Mike LaFleur a lot. Once he went into the booth, his play calling actually impressed me. Where a lot of creativity. He did a lot with a little. Like because the guys were all getting hurt. A lot of encouraging things there. But the other thing with Saleh that to me is interesting is how he handles this quarterback who did not play well last year. He thankfully he ended the season strong, but his year overall was disappointing because it wasn't good. There was times where he should have been benched because and they wouldn't do that. They wanted to learn the whole trial by fire thing, which I get, but he was in over his head. Now this year, like with the coach, there's a lot more expectation for Zach Wilson too. Like he has to perform at a much better level. Not saying he's gonna be a Pro Bowler, but command the offense, command the huddle, start emerging as a team leader, spread the ball around. And Joe Douglas has done a really good job putting playmakers around him. Like we have a tight end position for the first time in a decade. And that's which is perfect. You have, depth at running back. You have 5 receivers. Now you have all these different things where Zach Wilson has to run the offense and be fluid and have, and what I'm curious about is, I'm hoping he takes off, dude. Like I hope they start strong. But I'm curious about is how Saleh handles this training camp because last year was kind of weird. It wasn't really physical. And if you remember the start of the season last year, they started out flat on offense and defense almost the first half of the season.
And that's all on coaching. That's all on coaching.
It's preparation, dude. So I'm curious to see how this training camp, if it's handled any differently, because like we talked about it many times in the last couple of weeks, it's like you're playing very physical teams, dude. And even under Rex Ryan, a lot of times when we played a physical team, they smacked us around. They always pushed us around. And if this team wants to get to the next level and start establishing an identity, the identity should be like, you know what? You're not going to push us around anymore. This isn't the same old Jets. We are going to pound you. We're going to pound the rock on offense. And on defense, we're going to smack your quarterback around. We're going to do that. But you got to set that tone week one. You got to set the tone at training camp. And you got to, that's the culture change I want to see, because when Rex Ryan came in, he gave that big fiery speech. We all bought him. Like, yeah. But the defense kind of backed up. They were flying around.
Oh, yeah.
Last year, all gas, no break. Didn't really see a lot of that. We saw a lot of just like, what the hell is this? So now you want to see that mindset actually translate to the field. And, whether that starts in a more physical camp or however he handles it, I think it's going to be the opposite, actually. But I think it's going to be interesting, man.
What I think is really, I mean, if I have, a wish list, I'm not a big stat guy. I don't micromanage numbers. I'm an English teacher. I leave the numbers for the math guys.
Right.
I'm not hung up on wins and losses either, because I would rather have a season of this team hanging tough with quality teams and losing by a score than, beating up on the Jacksonville Jaguars and doing enough not to lose. Those aren't valuable wins as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
Hanging in, I want to see him go toe to toe with the Bucs and the Steelers and the Ravens. If they lose, fine. I don't even care about that, because it would give us one more year of a high draft pick.
I can't do it, dude. I can't do it.
I don't want to see him win 3 games, but you know what? They have to prove that they can hang with the quality teams, and they have to be able not to lose every game close, but they have to show us that they can win against a quality team.
Exactly. But they got to beat the average teams. Like you got, I'm saying the Dolphins are average, but the Dolphins and Patriots, you got to get a split there. Like there's certain teams, like I'm tired of conceding losses, man. Like obviously the Buffalo Bills are the class. I'll give them that. And I expect 2 losses. That's more whatever. They're that level team, but everybody else, like let's go toe to toe with them.
If you look at the roster that Douglas has put together, okay, he's got quality top to bottom. We have depth for the first time. We have skill players at skill positions. There's a couple of areas that, we need a backup tackle. We need another linebacker, whatever. But this team is vastly improved over what it was when Douglas got here.
Yep.
Now, if we don't have the Jets jinx, injure somebody, or something fucked up happening, I don't see why there's any reason that if they get a couple of breaks and they play up to their potential, I don't see why they can't be second in the division come December. The Patriots don't impress me. Okay. I know Belichick is, he's the greatest ever, blah, blah, blah. You know what? Mac Jones means nothing to me.
They lost Josh McDaniels.
No, I've always, as a rule, when I do mocks and things, I will never draft a quarterback. If I have a high draft, a top 5 draft, I will never draft a big school quarterback, because more often than not, they're bullies on a bully team, getting fat on little teams.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean, Trevor Lawrence and Peyton Manning and whoever are not incredible talents, but Mac Jones played at Alabama. Okay. He made a career on beating up the Vandies of the world.
Right.
Okay. That doesn't mean anything to me. I don't, and whatever. The Dolphins, I'm not sold on the Dolphins at all. I think Tua sucks. He's inconsistent. I don't like anything about him. I didn't like him coincidentally coming out of Alabama. I think he's a Marcus Mariota. He doesn't impress me. If Zach can play within himself and live up to his abilities, he's a very smart kid. I think he's a student of the game. I think, and I sorry if I'm going to offend some people, I think he's a much better talent, a natural talent, intellectual football talent than Sam ever was.
I think so.
Sam was a good guy, but Sam was very flawed. But we had been so beaten down, we were just drinking the Kool-Aid saying, oh, suck for Sam, suck for Sam. The moment the Browns took Mayfield, it was the 4th of July for us.
Yep.
Sam was a flawed guy coming out of USC, but he was the golden boy, and he'd been touted for a long time. We
also failed him too, though.
We set him up for disaster. So he never had a chance to get better.
Nope.
Zach has a chance to get better.
Yeah.
And, everybody said, oh, Zach's got no excuses. Well, listen, he has to play up to his abilities. He's getting paid a lot of money. He's now the face of this franchise. He has to show us that he's worthy of a number 2 pick. Okay. And we'll know at the end of the year.
Yeah, but see, the one thing that I think Zach has that Sam doesn't have, and I supported Sam, like we all did. Like I liked him. He's a good kid. He tried to do the right thing. The Jets failed him. He failed himself. Whatever else happened, fine. But to me, I honestly think to be the quarterback of the New York Jets, you need to have some swagger, dude. You need to have some fire. You need to be a little feisty. You got to be a prick sometimes because that's what this fan base is, man. Like you got to have an edge to you, because if you're soft or you're soft spoken, it's like that, dude, it just comes off the wrong way. We like, man, what is this guy like? And I think Zach has that little edge that I love about him, man. Like he went through a lot last year. Think about all the shit he went through. Yeah. He played terribly. He got hurt. Everybody outplayed him. Even Josh Johnson outplayed him. Where we were all questioning him. We're like, at first we thought it was the floor, and then everybody else played well. Okay, it's not the floor. It's not the playmakers. Maybe it's the quarterback. He overcame all that, finished the season strong. And then after that, he came out this whole offseason, put on like 12 pounds of muscle. He looks great. He's been working with his teammates endlessly. He's obviously a film junkie, because you watch the Flight 22. He's actually breaking down plays like, this is where the play didn't work. This is where the play did work. Like, dude, it's hard to not like him, but he has that edge. He has that swagger. He has the media kind of messing around today. He's joking around. Like he has that it factor that I think the Jets quarterback needs. And I think he has the arm talent that can win games on his own if he has to. We may not need it this year because he's got a lot of talent, but like I think he just has a lot of things that Sam doesn't have.
Absolutely.
I probably didn't explain it right, but like Sam was good, but I think Sam's ceiling was a certain point. I think Zach, if he just figures it out and just stays within himself, dude, could be a superstar, man.
I agree with that. I think Sam was just a low-key California guy.
Yeah,
that's not for this market.
No.
Here's the ultimate irony in my view. If you have a kid like Zach coming out and showing some swagger and showing some cockiness, they're going to eat him alive in the press. He can't win. Okay, think of it this way. Zach has been nothing but a good soldier for the past year.
Yep.
He was getting his ass lifted last year, driven into the ground.
Yep.
Never complained.
Nope.
He got hurt. Never complained. Never whined. Never went to social media. None of this bullshit. He took his lumps like a man, and he came back better, and he improved, and he started cutting back on mistakes. He went in the off season. He bulked up. He's been studying film. Okay, that's great. But you know what? What is all the media people? What do we want to focus on? That he's going out with his mom's friend?
Yeah, but I think the thing that I like about him, and like it's funny because a good friend of mine is a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, and so we always talk about quarterbacks and the team and like that. And the thing, like Josh Allen has that swagger, man. And what happens is if you play and you have that swagger, the players they resonate. Like it's just like everybody attracts the players, man. They respect him, they gravitate to him, and you become that emotional leader that a lot of times the team needs. Like when you're getting, the dog days of summer or a game where things are just flatter than shit, comes in, he's like, we got this shit. I'm going to carry you guys. I'll get you there. Like that kind of attitude and mindset will carry a young team and inspire people and make you go to another level. And then we saw it, Josh Allen, dude. You literally saw him grow as a leader, as a winner, as a quarterback. And I think I'm not saying Zach Wilson's Josh Allen for everybody's watching this, but there's a lot of things there that I like that I think Zach can do. It's just letting him be himself. Like just be yourself, let your personality be out there, and let these players get to know you. And I think he can do it, man. It's just
he's definitely what I think he has in his favor. He's the golden boy.
Yep.
But he really is a hard worker and a student of the game.
Yeah.
Okay. And that will breed respect. But like you said, he has to be able to grab a guy by the face mask if there's a mistake or a missed block or something and say, hey, listen, you need to get your head out of your ass. You cannot make that mistake. You're going to get me killed or you're going to get the game lost for us. Yep. So ear holes him, gives him a rap on the helmet and says, come on. The ultimate master of respect and fieriness and swagger, and, as much as I hate to admit it, it's Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the ultimate competitor. Yep. That guy, after all his success, he's so angry on the football field.
Yep.
If the refs short him a quarter of a yard, he's screaming and yelling about it. The ultimate competitor. And his players, they don't want to be on the wrong side of Tom Brady. That's what he's done for 20 years. He's not afraid to get in somebody's ear and say, hey, listen, that's unacceptable. He had a very famous saying, a comment, to some rookie. I don't know. The kid came in, he was talking about salary or something. And Tom Brady says, the only thing we're interested in here is trophies or something to that effect.
Yep.
That's what he competes for. Second best is not in his vocabulary. Yeah. He plays every year as the ultimate competitor and the ultimate field general. Zach, I'm not going to say is going to win all these Super Bowls, but Zach has to show us this year his persona, his on-field persona has to match his physical skills and his physical potential. He has to be able, he can't be Mr. Smiley Golden Boy. He has to kick his players in the ass if they make a mistake, but he also, he showed he was a man. He took his lumps. And he has to come back and wrap himself on the helmet if he makes a mistake. No more worm burners. We can't be having that. How many times do you see that?
But I think the thing too is last year, I think there was so much shit going on, man.
Yeah.
With this year, it's like if he did all the work, which we think he did, he's gonna know the offense inside out and backwards. And
Yeah.
that's the goal. So if I want to see a point, like I can't wait to go to practice it. I want to see points where the receiver runs the wrong route, he grabs him like, hey man, you're supposed to be over here. Like when you know where you're supposed to be, like, listen, this is where the ball went because you're supposed to be here. Like when you have that kind of command of the offense and that kind of knowledge of what's supposed to happen, then you're holding your teammates accountable because they know you know your shit.
Yeah.
Like when you have that, you know what I'm saying? Like when he comes to the home and says, you do this, or why did you do this? You're supposed to do that. They're like, well, bro, like, all right, like you got me now because now I know you're gonna keep me intact. Like I have to be on point at all times. And I think he can do that because he's like you said, he's a film junkie, he's a football junkie. And you look at the rest of the team, it's like this is the first time where there's a lot of legitimate depth. Like it's game-breaking talent, man, where it's like, you have Michael Carter and Breece Hall. You have, all these receivers, Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, all these things. It's like, when was the last time that we had this kind of young talent where it's like not made up things? We used to kind of overhype certain players. Like these are like, when was the last time we had this kind of talent like on the team?
Never.
Right?
Never. Not that I ever remember. We've always had youth anchored by a majority of veterans.
Yep. Band-Aids.
What I feel really good about is what Douglas has done is he let me give you a real quick example. I watch muscle car restoration shows. Mm-hmm. So last week, I don't know, I caught some show. They pulled a 72 Chevelle out of a barn. Okay. It was all seized up. It hadn't turned over in 30 years. It's rotted and this and that. They didn't know what the hell they had. They had to pull it out. They dragged it out on chains. They got it back to the shop. They evaluated it. They said, okay, this is what's not working. Then they went to work on it. They cut the pans out. They had to put new sheet metal. They put a new block in. They knew what they had to do from top to bottom. They never tell you how long it takes. Mm-hmm. Okay. But in a 90-minute show, they condensed a 2-year restoration. Right. That's what I look at Joe Douglas has done. The first year, this fucking franchise was a disaster.
Yep.
There was so much rot. He had bungee cords and Band-Aids just to get this wreck rolling out of the barn.
Yep.
Then he got it out of the barn. He got to the shop and said, okay, I got to get rid of the dead money. I got to get rid of the egos. I got to get rid of the divas. I got to get rid of the malcontents and the dead wood. And now we're at a point where we don't have a show car, but we have something that potentially can get us to a local cruise night and look pretty damn good.
Yep.
Okay. And you have young players who don't know what losing is.
Exactly.
They're not indoctrinated into being losers.
Right.
They fuck this same old Jets bullshit. We've enough already. Let's bury it. And I hate when these media guys, same old Jets. The guy makes a mistake. Same old Jets. Nonsense. Okay. Yep. This Douglas is brilliant. He has built something that can be sustained. If the players live up to their potential, we're good. Yep. If they don't, well, look, that's a different can of worms. But I'm thinking, I know you guys have talked about in the past about, the rookie, you've asked people the rookie they're looking most forward to seeing and whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The first time Sauce Gardner gets burned, he's going to be back in that film room, micromanaging what we're on. He's not going to be dicking off on Madden on his day off.
Yep.
He's going to be in the film room with DJ and the rest of that receiver room. And they're going to be grinding and they're going to say, okay, where did I go wrong? What do I need to do to improve? Yep. These guys, a guy like Breece Hall, how many touchdowns did this kid score? Yep. This guy's a winner, man. These guys don't know what losing is. Yep. And they're not going to like the taste of losing.
Yep.
And I'm not talking losing close.
Yeah.
I'm talking if, I'm praying for no shutouts and no blowouts.
Right.
We've had enough of that. If you're going to lose on the merits, fine. You played a better team. Terrific. Right. Okay. I got it. The Steelers are a better team, whatever. The Ravens, you lost fair and square, but you hung in. Okay. Then they're going to go back and say, okay, why did we lose? How are we all accountable?
Yep.
This is the first time, Tyson, that I felt that we have a team that is a team.
Yep.
You know, the old, what is it? There's no me, I in team.
No, I in team. Yeah. Yep.
There's no egos on this team.
Nope.
They're all one for all and all for one. And that's what I really like about the message that Saleh is delivering. These guys are going to war together. You have veterans making a lot of money, not making a lot of money. You don't see any bullshit going on. I mean, George Fant made a caustic comment on, but whatever. You don't see the social media nonsense that other teams are going through. Okay, when we purged the dead weight, it wasn't just about money.
Yep.
Okay, Jamal Adams wasn't just about money. His attitude sucked.
Yep.
The guy was toxic. Doesn't matter how great or how good he was toxic. Wasn't cut out for this football team. Yep. That's not what Douglas envisioned. He wants 53 men on equal footing, whether they're 10-year veterans or rookies, and they're all in it together, and they're going to pick each other up. It's not about how much you're making and how many followers you got. No, none of that. You're here to be a New York Jet. You're here to play ball, and you're here to do your best and make this club respectable once again. And that's what I'm really looking forward to. I want to see these guys come together, and I want to see them play as a team, because we have not seen that. I don't think we've ever seen that. You've always had a weak link. You've always had, a guy coming here for a paycheck. And this is like a renaissance time for this franchise. That I'm just, a guy like me. I've seen it all, man.
Yeah, but see, and that's the one thing that the takeaway from watching the Flight 2022 series is that every player is saying the same thing, whether the rookie, whether it's Whitehead, Uzuma, Vinny Curry. It's like, dude, they love football, they love the game, and they hate to lose, and they're going to find every way possible to play as hard as they can to start winning football games. Like, they don't, like you said, like they brought in high character guys that have been winners. Jordan Whitehead won a Super Bowl. Like, these guys have all come from winning backgrounds. They know what it takes to win. They know they've been through the rebuilds. They found all the ways to do it. Even a guy like Lake and Tomlinson, man. Like, and the cool thing that I like that the story that came out the last couple of days is that Lake and Tomlinson's been working with Vera Tucker. Jermaine Johnson's been working with Quinnen Williams. Like, they're already all doing this. Like, the rookies are working with Corey Davis. Like, they're all pitching in there, and they all are like, you know what? Fuck this losing shit. Like, a lot of guys last year, probably the first time they experienced the nightmare that it is losing with the Jets. And like, dude, this sucks. Yeah. And we don't want to go through this again. So it's like, all right, we got to figure out ways to get this as fast as possible. I like the message that Saleh keeps saying, like, you know what? We expect more everywhere. In division, at home, on the road, we got to be better. And it's right. I think this just feels different to me. It does. Yeah. Like, and this isn't being some Homer fan trying to get fucking followers. I can give a shit about that. It's just saying that we've seen it, dude. We've seen when we've had to generate our own excitement, or we had to buy into a plan we knew was bullshit, or we had to buy into players that we know were not as good as everybody else. The Jets have legitimate talent, young talent, game-breaking talent. I think they have a good mix of veterans and rookies. And I love the leadership they brought in. Like, I'm a fan of Tyler Conklin. I like the signing there. Like, it all makes sense, dude. And even like things we always complained about, where it's like ownership would get in the way. They backed out of the way. They're no longer in the way. Now Joe Douglas is pretty much running the show with Saleh. The Jets need a veteran backup quarterback. You got that in Joe Flacco. Like, all these things we've asked for, which were common sense things, have all been done now. Like a competent, professional football organization. And then you're like, all right, now we're here. Now it's like, take all this excitement, take all all these good things you're doing behind the scenes, and translate it to the football field. And I don't think it's too much to ask. I think they can do it. I think that if they just do it the right way and don't get caught up in any kind of hoopla, dude, they're going to surprise people, man, because they're just the only thing I'm curious about to get your take is the offensive line right now is interesting because, George Fant's left tackle, which I think is his best spot. Lake and Tomlinson, Pro Bowl guard. McGovern, not the biggest fan, but whatever. The right side's revamped. And now you have Vera Tucker and back down the right side, which I'm hoping their learning curve over there isn't long. You know what I mean? Like, I hope this group can just gel, because if they can, dude, they can be mauling people. Oh, yeah. They have legitimate, like, you could have 2 Pro Bowl guards, and if Becton plays to anything that we think he could play, dude, he'd be running people over, kicking, like, dude, how can you not be excited about it?
Well, you know what the thing I think is there's a large portion of this fan base that just I don't know if it's consciously or they're so beaten down. They revel in miserableness.
Yeah.
Okay. It's always a dark cloud. It's always something to complain about. You know, how much bullshit did we have to hear about Becton's weight? Okay.
Yeah.
When nobody knew. Nobody, in all the rumors and all the nonsense and all the stories and the fake news, never once did a specific weight number come out. That tells me that everybody in that organization is on a non-disclosure form somewhere in their employment. The moment Becton got to Jersey, got on the scale. He knew his weight. Saleh knew his weight. Douglas knew his weight. The trainers knew his weight. His teammates knew his weight. That number never came out from anywhere.
Nope.
Okay. So what happens? The guy shows up yesterday. He's looking pretty good.
Yep.
But the narrative for how long? 6 weeks now? Oh, he's eating himself into obesity and he's going to, whatever, all this bullshit. And it's nonsense. That's, jumping ahead for a second. Yeah. That's the problem with the Jets beat media. They have sold us for so long on personal biases and rumors as fact. And we finally just drew a line in the sand and said, you know what? Fuck you. You're full of shit. We don't believe you. Okay. All unnamed sources. Well, okay. An unnamed source could be the rent-a-cop in the lot checking parking passes when Becton drove in at the last minute, eating 2 Egg McMuffins because he was late for the meeting.
Yeah.
And then, oh, well, he looks like a big fat guy, whatever. That's your source. No, there's no information coming out of the Jets organization. Yeah. So all the rumors and the nonsense talk, it's all opinions that these guys are throwing out that are completely unsubstantiated. Believe none of it. Becton showed up in pretty good shape.
Yep.
Okay. Maybe when his baby was born and he came after his training down in Texas, he was a little bit soft. A man that big could drop 15 pounds with a colon cleansing.
Yeah. Okay? Well, that's, it's funny because it's like, I train fighters, man. Like that's, and the weight fluctuates and you're like, he could have been, say he was 395 at mandatory minicamp, but I think he knows his goal for the day one of training camp is be whatever, say 370, 375. Mm-hmm. So you go, all right, I got 5 weeks to lose 20 pounds. I can probably drop that in 2 weeks. Like, your body, man. You know what you can do. He was training. The videos were out there, all this stuff. And it's like, I get why people want to spew out those hot takes. They want to get their clicks. They want to do this. They want to do that. But it's like, so, and the whole thing was like, before you accuse somebody of being completely out of shape, you say, I wait till day one of practice. Is he practicing? Then it's not an issue, man. So to look at a guy in a t-shirt, like, yeah, man, the way I look at him right there, he's 400 pounds. Like, dude, we look at fighters every day. Dude, I can't tell if the kid's 165 or 155. I have no idea.
You know what? The guy, working with fighters, all about hydration.
Yes, sir.
A gallon of water weighs 8 pounds. All right. How many guys dehydrate to cut weight? Then at fight time, they're weighing 15, 20 pounds higher.
Yep.
Because they rehydrated. Becton picks up a gallon of water. It's like me picking up a Dixie cup. Yep. All right. So he drinks a gallon of water that he just sweat out. Well, his weight just went up 8 pounds. It's nonsensical. The thing about a guy of his size, whatever the number is, I want to see him light on his feet. I don't care if he's 450 pounds. Okay. It doesn't matter to me. If he is comfortable at X and he can move and do what is needed to be done, that's fine. I have never seen the media in more of an uproar about a guy's weight since Refrigerator Perry.
Yep. Remember that.
And that's, how long ago was that?
You're making a good point because the one thing with Becton that, if we're being completely fair, was the one thing he was struggling with was speed rushers and his agility too. And that, obviously Carl Lawson is one of the very, he's super explosive, but in Becton's rookie year, he was only going against, not to discount the player because I like him and we've had him on our show, Jordan Jenkins, but if you're going against Jordan Jenkins every day in practice, okay, are you really getting tested to the maximum capacity of your ability? Probably not. Last year, when Becton came in, he had his hands full of Carl Lawson. This year, he's going to have his hands full with Lawson, Jermaine Johnson, and Martin, all these different guys. But, dude, now you need to have the ability to adapt. And okay, listen, I can use my size and physicality to push you around, but I also got to be agile enough to get and be able to contain speed rushers, too, and do different things, and to do sweeps and everything else. Like, he had, like you said, he can be big, but you got to be an athlete. You got to be able to fit within the offense and be able to do other things as well. So if he's comfortable doing that at 375, God bless him. If it's 365 or whatever the fuck the number is, whatever that number is, let him do that. But you're right, though. That's the one thing. You want to see him be big, but be able to do a variety of things, because once the NFL has film on you, defenses are going to adjust. Like, all right, we know what his move is here, we know his move is here, but let's do this to him because he can't stop it. You got to keep, fine-tuning your game and your body to accommodate how you're being attacked.
The big thing that I've seen over the years is you got these guys, they're getting bigger by the year. They're men among boys in college.
Yeah.
They get to the NFL and they're soft, a lot of them. They have to lose the baby fat.
Yep.
And it's like pro wrestlers. You see, or not pro wrestlers, pro bodybuilders with the big power lifters, like with the big guts.
Yep.
That guy looks like a big fat fuck, but that boulder of a gut is rock hard.
Yeah.
So whatever weight Becton is, if he can move, now he's going up against Carl Lawson in practice. Carl Lawson is underweight him by about 120 pounds.
Yep.
That's I'm an average size human. I'm 5'10", about 150. That's one of me practically.
Yep.
That Lawson would need to carry around, rushing against a guy like Becton. Becton is a huge individual. Can he become the next Tony Baselli or Anthony Munoz or John Hanna? I don't know.
Yep.
But a guy that big, however light on his feet he has to be, he knows where it's at.
Yep.
But, when we're going to micromanage instead, he's not 375, he's 385. It's like kicking a deck chair off the Titanic to cut weight. That means that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's
so huge. He knows where he's comfortable.
Yep.
And the telling of the weight story, the truth in the telling, will be when we see him on the practice field moving against big, fast men.
Yep.
Okay. Now, if a guy like JJ's a kid, these dudes are big dudes now. They're 275 and fat, running 4 3s and 4 4s. Yep. If these guys are running circles around Becton, all right, well, we got to go to plan B.
Yep.
But we need to see him return to his rookie stature, where he had the potential. Last year was a Jets, a fluke. It's one of these Jets things, that he just got rolled up on. He didn't get blown out because of his weight or anything.
Nope.
The media slagged him for a year.
He had a rough training camp though, but I think it was just like it's so funny because he had a rough year, but it's like you're going against a guy Carl Lawson he never dealt with before, which is completely like, what the hell is this? Yep. A whole new offense, new guys next to him. Like there's so much things going on that but it's like, I get it. Like I understand. So you give him the benefit of doubt in a lot of things, but I think the one benefit he has, and a lot of these players are going to have, including the young receivers and young corners, is the abundance of talent on the team now. That whole iron sharpens iron thing, that shit is real, dude.
Oh, yeah.
When you're going like when Revis and Brandon Marsh used to compete every day, they were bringing out the best in each other because they were going at it toe to toe. So when you have, Mekhi Becton dealing with whoever it is, Jermaine Johnson or Lawson or whoever they put in front of him, he's going to have to learn, dude, because you're going to face it day in and day out. And it's going to, dude, the film don't lie. You know what I mean? If you're Garrett Wilson, you can't, you're going to be challenging whoever corner is in front of you, whether it's, sauce guard or whatever. Like those battles are good things, man. And that's what the Jets, I think, based on their lousy personnel and the lousy rosters, have failed because you don't have good talent. You're not bringing out the best in each other. Then when you play a good team, you get your fucking doors blown off because you're just not prepared. Where I think now you're more prepared now.
As a trainer of contact sports participants, when you're training your fighters, the way you're going to make them better is by having them train against people of equal or better skills. Absolutely. You're not going to put your fighter in against the little guy and make him feel good because he's beating the shit out of a dude who some little tiny guy or somebody who is not even close to being in his weight class or skill level. That means nothing. By the way, I love Lawson.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big fan.
What I've learned about him, I love this guy, and I was so heartbroken last year. But getting back to what you just said, a guy like Lawson is the first guy who will go up to a guy like Becton and say, "This is what I did to beat you. Let's work on it together after practice. I'm going to show you some counter moves that you can beat my speed rush, or you can beat my stunt." We
actually saw that, dude. We saw that last year in practice. There was a couple times at the practice. I'm like, wow. I'm like, you want to take pictures, but you're trying to watch and take pictures. Dude, they were actually doing that. I was like, this is exactly like
This
So
is
you
what
figure
need.
if he's doing that with Becton, can you imagine what he's telling Jermaine Johnson and Clemens and all these guys? Like, dude, that's what I'm saying. Where you have like these like legitimate game breaking top level talented players that aren't me guys, they're team guys that are willing to give back and help, and that's going to help Becton's going to help everybody else. And I think it trickles down throughout the roster, dude. It really, really does. I get excited thinking about it because I've just seen where we've come to where we are now, and there's a lot of positives now with this.
You know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about, when we had talked offline, the one word of quite a few that I would use to an outsider to describe this team from Douglas and Saleh throughout the roster is humble.
Yeah.
And you show me a guy who thinks he's the smartest guy in the room, and I'll show you a loser.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Football is a game of evolution. It's not static.
Yep.
You do something one week, the following week, 30 other teams already know how to combat what you did.
It's true.
Okay.
Yep.
So you have guys who are not me guys. They're not social media guys. They're not Jamal Adams guys.
Yep.
They're team guys. They're proud to be pro football players. This is a golden opportunity. These guys are the best of the best in the world. On the worst team in the league, they're still the best of the best in the world.
Yep.
And it seems like they have a great dynamic as a team. They're working together. That's important, because when the losses start piling up, and they will, still a young team, there's no finger pointing. Okay. And you're going to have guys coming to each other's backs and for support. Last year we talked about it ad infinitum when poor Zach is getting his head drilled into the ground. People are standing around looking at the sky.
Pissed me off.
If I was the coach, I would have said, listen, we're sacrificing one of you. You're getting ejected. Cut that fucking guy out at the knees so he learns never to do that to our quarterback.
Exactly.
Take the penalty. Who cares?
Drove me crazy.
So you're going to see guys supporting one another, I think, because the personalities, and this is, Saleh's been very good about making T-shirt slogans. Okay. But I think the loving, when he says love ball, it annoys me. I'm an English teacher. It sounds grammatically incorrect. Love football, not fucking dodgeball or basketball or, whatever.
Right.
But you have guys, it seems, young guys, old guys, who really are passionate about what they do. They love playing football. They want to be winners. They are driven to be successful. You have guys, like you said earlier, who have come from successful programs.
Yep.
But you got guys coming off, Lawson and Uzama. They played for the Bengals when the Bengals sucked.
Yep.
They didn't just come off, the Super Bowl team.
Yes, sir.
They know what it was to be a laughing stock. That's a very bad taste to carry around as a professional athlete. You don't want to be known as the lovable loser.
Right.
You want those guys want to be playing competitive games in December too, just as much as we want them to be. They don't want to have, how many years was it that we knew by Thanksgiving these guys got their golf clubs packed?
Yeah, you could see it. Yep.
You can see it. They don't give a fuck, whatever. I'm telling you, is my check ready? Okay, thank you. And I don't get that sense.
No.
I'm not in the building. I remember I used to go to Cortland when we had it up, and I was here when my daughter was little, when we T-boat.
Yes.
They got T-boat. Okay. And we were up there, and my daughter is 8, 9, 10 years or whatever she was. She was doing the T-boat thing, and it was a fucking circus. The green and white game, nobody gave a shit except to see T-boat play.
Yep.
Nobody cared about anything except T-boat.
Yep.
And it was just, I've been a Jets fan long enough saying, this is fucked up.
Yep.
Enjoy it while it lasts, because it never does. This is just a disaster. I had already known smoke and mirrors for too long. Okay. Yep. This is not the magic elixir. This is a fucking joke and whatever. But when I watch, now we have a lot more access now to seeing things, thanks to entrepreneurs like yourself. You bring a tremendous amount of information to the fan base. We can't thank you enough, speaking for everyone and myself. But we have access now. We see what's going on. We have individuals who are smart, entrepreneurial spirit people like yourself and Kevin. And, you think about the geographic spread of our content providers. You got Ian is down in Tampa. Matt's over on the island. Richie's out on the island. You and Kevin, Ryan are out in Jersey. Green Bean's down in Virginia. Edston's up in Syracuse. Frankie from Flatbush is out in Pittsburgh. There's a guy in Buffalo. There's a guy in Texas.
Yep.
You're doing this because you're not bought and paid for by the system. You're doing it because of your passion and love for the team. You're bringing us, the fan base, information. You're sharing intelligent criticism and critique and whatever, and bringing us information, whether it's about contracts or Becton's weight or whatever. But we're able to see this, and we're able to get a vibe. Okay. And when we see these guys working together, and then content hosts like yourself pointing these things out to us that you've seen, that gives us information. Yep. And that says, you know what? I trust a guy like Tyson because he's a solid guy. I've been watching him for 3 years. He's not full of shit. Okay. He's not peddling some rumor.
Yeah.
He's a fan. He's a solid guy. He told me what he saw. You told me online on presentation. Yeah. You told me you were over there. You told me what you saw. You saw the interaction between Lawson and Becton. You saw after practice, Zach was lining up with his running backs and doing downs and ins and downs and outs. So we're getting the vibe that you're getting because you're giving it to us through your eyes.
Right.
And now that's another thing that you got to understand too. I'm old enough to remember we had 2, 4, 7. Those were network as a kid growing up. Yep. There was no cable. 2 and 4 were the 1 o'clock and the 4 o'clock game. 7 was Monday Night Football and college football on Saturday. That was it. And from Super Bowl till June, it was a fucking desert.
Yep.
We waited for all the preview magazines to hit the stands in June that gave us the information about the draft and the forecast and, the outlook of the season. Then, we got cable and we had ESPN. We could watch Canadian football a little bit.
Right.
We had USFL. That's in the dark ages. Then we were, we had the Daily News. You had out in Jersey, you had the Bergen Record. You had the Post, and you had out on the island with Newsday.
Yep.
That's the only place we were able to get information from. Okay. And I mean, you take to name drop, you take a guy like Maida, Manish Maida.
Yeah.
How long did we have to suffer through that asshole? Okay?
Yeah.
Half the shit that he wrote was bullshit. The other half was more bullshit. And yet he was the dedicated Jets source for a major metropolitan newspaper. What you have done, Tyson, and all the quality content providers in the Jets world, not only have you developed a national and a global audience, okay, but you've rendered the media as obsolete. You've lifted the curtain and you've showed us that we don't need these people. They're uninformed and they're full of bullshit and they're biased for whatever reason. Okay. And it was fascinating. Digressing for a second. I'm sorry. If you haven't watched Green Bean talking to Connor Hughes yesterday,
it was last night. Yeah.
It's listen, he's a polarizing guy. People love him, people hate him, but he works hard. But I realized after watching that Connor Hughes is a legend in his own mind, like so many of these other guys. He has to understand that he doesn't serve us anymore. Okay. He made and he always had everything he said was, well, I'm not trying to be a dick about it. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, we know you're being a dick about it because you're a pompous fucking ass. He said he made a difference between the how do you say it? The fan-based media and then the professional media. And you know what? His professional media credential doesn't mean shit anymore because the fan media, like yourself and those that we mentioned, you're the sources of information for us. Do you think that the guy in Melbourne, Australia gives a fuck about what Connor Hughes says? No, but he subscribes to your channel and he subscribes to Green Bean.
Okay? I think like the media, where they're at a disadvantage now is because now we have access as fans. We have access to all the press conferences. The Jets, so we can watch the press conferences. We can watch all the play interviews. We watch the games. They do have access to a lot more practices than we do, which is fine. But like once the games happen, we all watch the same shit. Like so it's like you can't it's so weird because it's just I don't know. It's just I don't know. Like I really enjoy watching all the content creators because they're all diehard fans that live and die with the team, and they want this team to win so bad that we pinpoint all the reasons why we're not winning because we want them to be fixed. where it's like, and sometimes I think members of the media get lazy, man, where they can just
yeah,
pass off some random
absolutely.
bullshit and like, oh yeah, that's what this is fine. I'm like, no, dude, that's not the case. Like, it's
You
so
know,
strange, man.
the two guys that I have lost total respect for, that I liked as players and I like, as human beings, Boomer Esiason, who I met at the Super Bowl in '96 when Keyshawn was getting drafted, and Tiki Barber, because they've mailed in their credibility. They've become like, Tiki Barber doing that Zach take, that was
That was
so
terrible. So
low-hanging
terrible.
fruit bullshit. You know what? If he's
It wasn't
gonna
even accurate.
it was first, yeah, it was a skewed take. It made no sense. It's like, what are you talking about? Where do you get that? And if you're going to talk about Zach Wilson and branding, you know what? You better talk to your fucking former team about drafting Mr. Brand himself, Kayvon Thibodeau.
Yeah.
Okay. And then Boomer, Boomer's a chameleon. Boomer can play the straight man, super articulate guy, but then, he's like a poor man's version of Howard Stern on his radio program. It's telling penis jokes and fart jokes.
Yeah.
It's these guys don't offer us anything anymore.
Yeah.
And what I know, I was talking to some guy online. He's like, well, you don't want your beat reporters to be fans. No, I do want them to be fans. I don't want them to be biased. I want them to be impartial in their presentation of information.
Absolutely.
I want them to be fans because I want my beat guy to be as passionate about my fucking team as I am for the past 52 years.
Yep.
Okay. I don't want some jackass walking in because, he works for XYZ. It's like, oh, the Jets, the same old Jets, the butt fumble. That's nonsense. That offers nothing. That's, and you talk about, we mentioned a guy like the guy who worked for the news, Maida. That guy was a total journalistic grifter. Right. And he was the point man for the Daily News. But, you think the Daily News, whatever it is, but we're in a world of tabloid journalism.
Yeah.
Okay. The content creators like yourself have not crossed over into tabloid journalism. You're honest purveyors of information. Now, it doesn't mean that I have to agree with what you say. We can agree to disagree. But I know when I listen to Tyson and Primetime, I'm getting humor. I love that stuff, But I'm also getting two guys who are not afraid to call out what needs to be called out. Yeah. You know what? I want to see Tyson Roush yelling and saying, fucking Saleh, we're tired of hearing the same bullshit at your fucking press conference. Yeah. Enough already. You had a great week of practice. You lost by 47 fucking points.
Yep.
Costello will never say that.
Nope.
O'Connor won't. Fucking Connor Hughes won't. They'll always say, well, coach, you had a really good week of practice. No, I don't want to hear that bullshit. I want somebody to say, hey, coach, listen, no offense. Your team came out totally unprepared today. You look like a fucking expansion team. Could you explain to the fans why? Yep. Because it's us who is paying your salary.
Yeah.
Why did your team look like such dog shit after such a great week of practice? You tell us.
Yeah.
Be honest about it. Don't go for the gratuitous slandering a guy. Well, I heard that Denzel Mims is lazy, and that's a bunch of bullshit. Okay. Don't go up and say, Saleh, you're a fucking asshole. We got that. But you know what? I want you to be able to call out and say, you know what? I saw this week of training or week of practice. Guys look sharp. Why did they come out flat and embarrass us? I want to know that.
Yeah.
Okay. Why are you not afraid to ask that question? Because you're an entrepreneur. You're not paid for by the system. Okay.
Well, see, the thing is, though, those guys they're kind of hamstrung too, because they start asking us hard questions. They probably won't get access to certain players. They don't get access to certain things. Like,
then, you know what?
They gotta play the game.
But here's the thing, Tyson. Before I became a teacher, I was in the publishing business. I was an editor and I was a writer for the #1 motorsports magazine on the stands at that point. We had at our peak about 250,000 hard copy circulation. And then I was writing for an online pop cultural magazine that was global with 1 million individual readers a month. So I doesn't make me great. It just makes me have a little bit of publishing experience as a writer and an editor. So I know a little bit about journalistic integrity.
Right.
Okay. And I get you got a job, but journalism is something that has become far too tabloid in the modern age.
Yep.
It's all a bunch of nonsense. It's all a bunch of, Twitter trolling and getting in arguments on Instagram. It's where's the facts? Where's the information? There's no more intelligent transferal of information. It's all a bunch of, the radio, the talk radio shows are gone. The TV guys are all full of shit. It's a yuck fest, or it's a bunch of bullshit. They're peddling the same nonsense.
Yeah.
And the only honest source of information, as far as I see, are the content providers, because you're number one, you're fans. Number two, you're honest. Okay.
Yep.
It doesn't. I don't agree with Matt all the time, but he's a smart, informed guy. He's not afraid to ask questions, even if they're rhetorical questions.
Right.
He's not just saying, "Oh, I have to protect my press pass." If you're in this business as a journalist and you're so scared about asking a question to lose your press pass, you need to get the fuck out and go take a job in a different industry, because you have no integrity as a journalist. None whatsoever.
But see, that's where it is. A lot of these guys. I think of a lot of these guys. For a lot of guys, I think some guys are just complacent. It's their 9-to-5 job, man. It's their job. Yeah. Go in, cover the team, do that, and listen. I give him respect. Like, to me, Connor Hughes he's playing his cards right. He's gonna probably be a national guy soon. He's gonna climb the ladder and get to do what he wants, which is great. But what I like most about all the content creators is you're right, dude. Like, we could say whatever we want, because we're not tied to be worrying about, well, the Jets won't give us access to players. The Jets won't do this. We don't care. Yeah. We're just gonna say, we just call it like you see it, and that's the really cool part. And I think it's just, there's a lot of really cool really cool discussions that Green Bean has, and Ryan and Ian. And it's really cool, like fascinating discussions, like, what is, how do we improve the team here? What went wrong here? And it's like really detailed stuff, instead of just like the low hanging fruit, which is made for clicks. You know what I mean? It's just, and that's the cool part of all these guys.
Think about this, Tyson. If you think about we're at the end of July. Think about, let's say, mid-June up till today. How many different topics were covered by the top 6 or 8 content providers versus the media?
Oh, yeah. They were all, the media's been
media. There were 2 topics of the media. Becton's weight, pushing a false narrative that the guy is dying from obesity, and Zach's love life. Yep. That's what the media loves, because it's all tabloid. Yeah. Okay. You content guys didn't talk about all that bullshit more than in passing, and have a couple of yucks about, whatever. And the funny thing about Zach, that story was the one thing that didn't go reported. Now nobody even knew if it was true. The rumor that he was, whatever. If he sacked his mom's friend, he now leads Vernon Golston in career Jets sacks.
Vernon Golston was so bad, man.
I know,
he couldn't even play special teams. He was so bad.
Those are what? But how many? You talk about seeing ghosts. Ask a Jets fan my age. How many ghosts we see? The ghost of Vernon Golston. He's at the end of the line. We see ghosts long before him. We see the ghost of AJ Dewey.
Yeah, no,
long before that. But that's why, and I don't want to, beat the dead horse. I think we're in a renaissance period right now. This is like, with the content exploding in terms of quality, audience, membership. This reminds me of when Mike and the Mad Dog first hit the air.
Yeah.
That was huge, because we, as New York sports fans, those two, before they got inflated senses of self-importance and became the stories as opposed to what they needed to be reporting, those guys were us.
Must listen. Yep.
We could call up, and I called into that show a bunch of times. I talked to Russo quite a few times about, football and boxing or whatever. But they gave it to us straight. And that, Russo wasn't afraid to yell and scream about something.
Right.
That it was not obligatory. Then it became, a clown show.
Right.
And he had, he's running around like Jerry Lewis in the old movies, screaming, like a maniac. And then, Frances is chronically wrong about everything. But that is when talk radio, sports talk, because before that, it was just, you could dial in at midnight or listen to it on AM back in the old days. But now, with so many content providers covering the team, you are giving us access that we collectively didn't previously have 2 or 3 years ago. And you see, listen, I think a lot of it happened because of COVID, because so many people were forced to retreat to their homes and go into lockdown. Everybody retreated to their homes and turned on YouTube.
Yep, absolutely right.
How many epoxy rosin carving videos do I have to watch? I can forge a Viking sword out of a piece of leaf spring at this point.
Yep. Have to freeze. Is mine or yours? Hold on a second here. I think we froze here. Hold on 1 second. I'm not sure if it's me or you. Let's see here. Can't tell if it's mine or yours. Well, I think if it's mine, I think we'll have to end this thing. I think it's frozen. So let me see if it's. Move this in, add him back on. Nope, it's his. All right, well, let's see if he comes back on or not, because he was on a roll right now. But if not, let's see if he comes back on. This is a fun conversation, man. We're doing an hour and a half right now. He's just rolling. So we'll do it. I guess we'll do is thank everybody for watching. Thank Adam for joining, man. I think he come back on or not. Let's see if he comes back on or not. I wonder if it was mine or his, but I think it might have been his. So thank you guys for watching it. Thank you, Adam, for joining us. He's in our chat. So once I get him back on, I'll share the information and we'll talk to you guys later.